Alrighty, welcome back to part three. Is America under judgment? And today I'm going to cover economy, government, and the military. Now, as we have covered in the other segments, we've seen the signs that as a nation we are falling. First is the destruction of the family, of manhood, womanhood, and of childhood. We've seen education system. We've seen how our educational system is corrupted, and basically you're at homeschooling now because we have indoctrination centers. Everybody's pushing far left ideology. They're pushing the LGBTQ stuff. They're pushing everything but education. Our children cannot read, write, or do arithmetic, but they sure know their pronouns, and they're being encouraged to protest. How many of our high school and college students, they spend more time protesting than they do in the classroom? Between Black Lives Matter, which is that organization was communist, and it was destruction of nuclear family. Antifa is a communist organization, destruction of the family. Modern day occultism is the family is the number one public enemy. So we're seeing here education and a lot of Marxism is basically it's being run by the state. God has to die, and so does the family. The state is your God, and it is your family. If the state says for you to die, they expect you to accept it willingly because you're doing it for the goodness of the state. Uh, we're seeing with our religion, there's a lot of new age stuff that has come in. The our churches are compromised with occultism and with the LGBTQ stuff. There's a lot more than the churches are. It's become new age. There's a lot of cult stuff in there now, and like I said in the segment, what Jesus did you get saved under? I have to ask now. Is it the Jesus of the Bible? Is it the God of the Bible, or is it Mother God and Christina? And there's more than one pathway to salvation. It's just that this is just one path to get there by going to church. But if you're a Buddhist or you're a Muslim, you're going to heaven. No, that's not true. There's only one. Jesus is the only way to heaven. Everybody else going to hell. That's just bottom line. And we are a pleasure seeking people. Credit cards maxed out. Got to have a new car and new iPhones and new homes. You got to keep up with the Joneses. We're so deep in debt as a country, it's horrific how much that the credit card debt is. It's just terrifying. And we're seeing that our race relations is in peril. I hate to say it, Barack Obama was the worst thing that happened in the United States as far as race relations. Before then, we were getting along. We had come a long ways racially. Now he come in and preached racism. He's a racist, and now all we hear out of Democrats is everything's based on race. They went from being the Ku Klux Klan to the I'm trying to keep it where I'm not going to get in trouble. They're the Klan with a tan now. It's all about it's about white people are bad. Kill Whitey. And it shouldn't be that way. We're all brothers and sisters in Christ. We shouldn't see race. And if you say you don't see race, then you're denying that you're a racist. We're at the point now, whites are oppressors and minorities, they're all people of brown or black colors or yellow or red, whatever you want to call them. You're all the oppressed. And this is one of the things that's killing this nation is racial tension. There's no need for it. Like Black Lives Matter, I see more white people leading than I did see black people. When it's funny, in the name of Black Lives Matter, all the white people ran into the minority communities and burned them to the ground, left and went to the next city to burn down, and left the black people or minorities would chart out businesses and burn down homes. It's like, sorry, Charlie, see you later. And it was sad. The summer of love was destruction, and it was a bunch of white rich kids leading the pack in Antifa and Black Lives Matter. I actually felt sorry for the minorities because their communities are the ones being burnt to the ground. And anytime Antifa showed up into a suburb outside the city, they were always met with a bunch of guns, and they didn't stay too long. They weren't able to come burn down once they got out of cities. But the cities are open grounds for right now. It's the pro-Palestinian protester. It just went to something else. They're always protesting about something. Now it's protesting Israel, and Joe Biden's going to get sued because he's promoting genocide, and our government's corrupt. Everybody knows that you walk in there, you do a couple terms and you walk out a millionaire. There's so much money. All our politicians are corrupt. You don't trust any of them. Two-tier justice system. We're seeing now that there's Democratic privilege, and then there's the average Joe. If you're a Democrat, you get away with murder. Everybody else has to go through a corrupt justice system. This is what we're seeing. Our country is failing. Pleasure seeking. We're always, that falls into the church. We're seeking experiences, and we're running after good feelings too. It's feelings and experiences. What we're people are doing in church, they're running from church and event, walking in feeling spiritual, but when you walk out, feel empty again. Mega churches are killing the local congregations. The small churches in the community being wiped out by mega churches because that's where all your middle-aged families are going to, and they're flocking to those. And it's leaving death and destruction to the local churches in the towns and local communities. We're seeing that America is falling, and it's sad that it has become this. These are just signs. I'm not complaining, just trying to open up that there are signs that we're seeing in America that Christians had better wake up and see what's going on. It's sad, but these events have to take place. Uh, the world has to come to pieces. This is what it basically comes down to. In order for the Antichrist to come in and take over, the world has to be in pieces. Economically collapses and destruction, natural disasters, governments failing, wars, all just chaos, period. And he's going to be the man that comes in and fixes all this. So God is maneuvering right now. He's setting up the pieces for it to happen. And just knowing that's going to happen, we're just seeing our country fall. And like I said, Donald Trump may not make a difference. For decades, our children have been corrupted in our education system, in our from kindergarten to PhDs. Our public school systems and universities are all corrupted, and we have allowed professors and teachers who are activists have been unchecked for years. It's just now, the last 2 or 3 years, parents have really gotten involved, and now you're a domestic terrorist. If you go to a school board meeting, you are now a domestic terrorist by the FBI, signed off by the president and by the school associations or school unions. And with all these illegal immigrants coming in here now, we're seeing now that we're being decimated. Our communities cannot take the impact of illegal immigrants. And they say by the time that Joe Biden gets out of office, it'll be up to about 12 million on top of the 10, 12, 20, 30, 40 million that were already here anyways. So we're taking a burden in our hospitals, as I say, into our hospitals, our medical care, our food supplies, and everything, jobs and everything else is gonna be affected by all this stuff. That's another sign we're failing. The aliens are going to rule us because they're going to outnumber us, and there's no side of of when this is going to stop. It's all politically driven. It's done on purpose. None of what's going on is done by accident. Everything is done on purpose. Remember that. We have foreign entities like China. They've done a lot of corruption in the United States. We've seen that our president is bought and sold out to the Chinese, his entire family. A lot of our politicians, even in the Republican Party, we see the Senate majority or minority leader now, his family, shipping, worth millions of dollars in shipping, communist China. And we're seeing Ukraine, the all that money that went to Ukraine, a lot of that came back into politicians' back pockets. Everybody knows there's corruption there. That's why everybody wants the war in Ukraine, because they're making money off of that. Politicians, they're getting rich. And with the campaigns coming up for 2024, what's going to happen? You got to have campaign money. You got to have millions of dollars to campaign. Well, where do you get it? Ukraine. All the kickbacks. Okay, enough of that. That's just showing that how our nation. Now the next part I will do, and part four will be with the biblical part. I'm just trying to get you to see that this stuff has to happen, that it is happening, some of the causes of it. And you as a Christian to be prepared for this stuff is for you to wake up, be prepared. The Lord's giving you warnings and He's telling you what's happening. He's screaming right now, telling you judgment is upon America. Adjust and prepare for it. But most Americans don't want to hear it. They don't follow the news. They don't care. It's not impacting them right now. And most Americans don't care. Their churches are just fine. Their jobs are fine. Their economics is fine. They don't care until it hits them. By then, it's too late. Okay, let's get started. Economy, government, and the military. Originally, agriculture and land ownership were Rome's chief sources of wealth and became the most heavily taxed. Over time, the landowners who operated large farms on the back of slaves eventually undersold smaller farmers, forcing them out of business. We're seeing corporate farms running the mom and pop farms out of business. If you're a small time operator, it's just so expensive to try to raise livestock, let alone try to sell it. It's more or less, if it's not for personal consumption, it's just too expensive. In addition, importing food from both conquered lands and more easily accessible distant foreign ports are also began to take its toll. Commercial trade in Rome created a massive consumer economy that focused on services rather than production and growth, just as is modern day America and Britain. Now, what we're seeing in America, most of our goods are produced overseas, be it Mexico and Canada, but it's just like the medicine that you take comes from China. By trade, we're not allowed to mine rare earth materials. That's why we don't make microchips and everything else. We are not allowed to mine earth minerals. Uh, it's cheaper to operate factories overseas. You know, you pay some of these guys 50 cents an hour and they're quite pleased. That's good money where they're at and makes a good profit. But we see here at commercial trade, we're having trade problems for the fact is you got ships backed up in the ports on the West Coast. The Panama Canal has such a drought, they can only let 50% of the ships through what they would normally would do because there's just not the water there to get these big cargo ships through the locks. Now we're seeing in the Middle East, we're seeing the Houthis out of Yemen are now missile attacking commercial shipping. They're also having problems with Iran hijacking ships. So now ships are going to have to go around Africa the long way instead of trying to go through the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf. So we're going to start seeing big delays and us getting produce, getting manufactured goods, medicine, all that stuff is going to be getting harder and harder to get because it's hard for ships to even get here because the trade routes have been compromised. And these ports can only take so much at one time. There's nothing to have 40, 50 ships outside of Los Angeles and in some of these West Coast ports. They just can't unload them fast enough. Also with trucking, they're having a problem with truckings. Why? Because California, with their climate change laws on trucks and stuff, if you have a truck older than 2011, you cannot operate in the state of California. You're not allowed to operate your vehicle. So we're seeing it isn't just the ports; it's just a lot of ships, and there's just a lot of people aren't driving trucks anymore. So we're having problems getting stuff. We're just seeing all this stuff is starting to compile on each other. Okay. As Roman Empire expanded, so did the cost of operating it. Rapidly growing government bureaucracy became expensive to maintain. For instance, it took an army of officials to man and work the increasing complicated red tape filing system, which faced demands from both government services and the government. So we're seeing here that the government's grown so big and there's so much red tape, it's hard to get anything. You go to apply for something, it's just so much paperwork and so many people involved in offices. It just takes forever to get any type of permit or any type of paperwork, uh, be it for business or personal use. And it's just time, and there's just so many people involved, and there's a good chance your stuff might get lost in the process. And the government has become so big, it is so expensive because remember when they hire all these people, they got to get paid per, they got to get medical insurance, they got to uh, benefits. It's just it costs so much money and pensions and everything else that comes with it. It costs a lot of money to operate a large government. So a lot of stuff, and you're seeing your taxes just get outrageous. And the military, we're having problems with the military. It has become woke. Uh, they can't meet recruiting goals anymore because people just don't want to join. There's two things killing the military. One was COVID mandates. That stopped a lot of people. People got out. You got 19,000 people got out, and ain't nobody coming back in from it. You lost a lot of trained, well qualified people for what? An experimental drug that was not FDA approved? I wouldn't have took it either. And I'm retired military. I did 21 years. I would not have taken it. I would have lost everything. I I probably had over 100 shots in the military over the time I spent. No, I spent a lot of time overseas. I got a lot of shots, but they were all FDA approved. Now I didn't care for the anthrax, but I had to get it. And some friends of mine got a bad batch, and they got medical complications from it. But the other thing is diversity, where you have a lot of white young kids who have been taught to hate their country, hate their race. They have been taught to uh, their history is being destroyed. They're preached it constantly about they have white privilege and white supremacy. So now the military has a hard time finding white soldiers. They're not join. They're not going to join. Why would you join an organization that hates you? The only thing the military has proven in diversity training is how much they hate white soldiers, and the message is received loud and clear. And I was equal opportunity in the Army. I dealt with racial issues. I was military trained for equal opportunity. I was the commander's eyes and ears on equal opportunity programs and what activities were considered racially criminally. They could be moved up the chain to prosecute or whatever. I was trained on that stuff, and the only thing you ever heard was about white supremacy, and it's been shoved so much. Uh, a lot of the kids know they join today, they're not going to get a fair shake of getting promotions and going to military education, going to schools to get promoted. They just know it's not going to happen. It's going to be racially motivated. Everything is going to be based on race. Why would you join a racist organization to hate you? And that's what the military has proven. We're supposed to be war fighters, not social justice warriors. And this one, the problem we run into. Okay. These are just some of the issues, it's just open discussion of things that are happening. Me, I don't care if Trump gets reelected or not. Our system is established, it is decades old. Our children have been indoctrinated for 1 to 2 generations of hatred, that they hate their country, they hate their history, they hate their race. You're an oppressor or you're oppressed. We're a bad country. And you have children who no longer love their nation. They don't even know the history of it. And everything is racist. Every part of our history is racist. And we have, as Christians, we have allowed this stuff to go unchecked. And we failed to intervene and keep check. Now that some alarm bells were raised, now what happened is, if you're a parent that goes to any type of school assembly, you go to a PTA meeting, you go before the school board meetings and stuff, and you say one bad word, you will be a domestic terrorist. Even though you're in there protesting or saying your opinion, hey, these books are bad, these curriculums are bad. You're allowing stuff in the classroom. You're allowing these teachers to go unchecked. These teachers are doing such and such. Why are you permitting it? You're a domestic terrorist. We have a two-tier justice system. Everybody knows you have Democratic privilege, and then you have the average Joe under a corrupt judicial system. These are all signs of a nation that is falling. And I could go on and on and on about other stuff. The good news about this, it is ripe picking grounds to witness to people. This is the time and need that people need hope. This is where you, the Christian, can step in and witness and show charity and be the light of the world, to be the salt of the world. There's opportunities. It's not, I bring out some of the bad stuff, but the point is, through all this turmoil that's going on, the church can step in and bring hope and the light of Christ into people who are drowning in dread and in terror of having that void filled that they have. When I go in the world, I know there's bad out there, and I know what is what, but I know there's that chance I can talk to somebody about Christ. Let the Holy Spirit lead me and let them come across my path where we can talk about God and bring hope. The turmoil is there. It's just recognizing that there's turmoil there. It's not for you, the Christian, to engross yourself in all this. It's to be informed and to know that this stuff is going on, but it's not doom and gloom. These things have to happen. In order for the Antichrist to come, we know the world has to fall apart. We're just seeing that America has to fall. It has to happen for the Antichrist to be able to come in and bring peace to the world. It has to be an economic turmoil, wars, natural disasters, calamity of pestilences, and all this other stuff. And he will come in and he will be the guy who will falsely bring peace. And he's the only one that can broker the peace and put this world back together. This stuff has to happen. It's just knowing the signs that it is happening is the main point of this series. Now, the next part four, we'll get into the biblical part of when a nation's under judgment, but it's to recognize that neighbors against neighbors, brother against brothers, family against family, race against race. There's no reason for it. But knowing that this is being done on purpose. None of the stuff that's happening here was not pre planned and plotted out by our political and social elites because they want a one world government. We know that they're already wanting the 15-minute cities. Uh, they want you to own nothing and be happy. And they've come out and said it's a great reset. The 2030 agenda. See, all this stuff is nothing new. It's the World Economic Forum has told you what they want in the world. They want you to quit eating meat. They want you to eat bugs. And believe me, if you go on to Kroger's and Walmart, they have cricket flour. That stuff is already in the system. It's here. You have to read labels to see what they're putting in your food now because uh, there are bug farms everywhere, and they're humongous in Canada and the United States. We already see that uh, this stuff is being implemented, whether you like it or not. It's there. Go Google under Kroger's or under Walmart and look up cricket flour. It's there. Done seen it. Bought the T-shirt. But we're also seeing many things happen here. Knowing that things are going to get worse, it's not for you to Christian to dread about it. It's to know, as Christians, we know these events are going to take place. We have the ability to affect people's lives in the good way. And my main focus, a lot of times, I'm just telling you what's going on. So you, the Christian, is not to be in despair, but for you to know that the harvest is really getting quite ripe for us to really go out and to harvest. Maybe plant seeds, but is to harvest to a world who is failing, is in despair, and we can bring hope. And that's the main thing. And the thing is, it's time for us, the remnant in our churches, God fearing churches, to grow closer bonds, uh, serve and pray one another, and prepare maybe one day to pull our resources together to where we could be like the first church and we share all our resources together and we take care of one another. And you can expect persecution to take place. We already see now that the persecution against Christian is going to pick up. We're seeing now that children are not allowed to go into Christian homes anymore. It's Massachusetts, and Bill Biden has put a bill out there stating that Christian parents cannot, because they will not reaffirm a child's sexuality. If he wants to be transgender and stuff, Christians are going to project it. And there's already a case in Massachusetts, and they got a bill going before Congress stating pretty much Christian couples will not be allowed because they will not reaffirm a transgender child's decision to transition. So I love you. I see you next. Now we get into the biblical parts. This was just recognizing the signs. Now let's go biblically on it. I love you, and I will see you in the next episode.